Was this the case, Lindsey, and let me begin with you, of setting expectations so low that any kind of beat would have the street happy?
I think for Walmart, that's definitely true. For Macy's, that's probably partially true. Yeah, I mean, Macy's was the first to say we didn't have a great year. We're pretty disappointed in how 2016 went. But they were able to cut costs. You are seeing some of those initiatives pay off. They've already said they're going to close stores. There was no bad news in this announcement that was unexpected, and I think that made the street pretty happy.
Let me go to you now, Shelly. It sounds great that there's been double-digit online growth for Walmart, but it's still, I mean, we're talking double-digit growth from such a low base.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly still have a long way to go. This is a big deal in the sense that Jet.com, this big $3.3 billion acquisition is starting to pay off. And it's not just 1 quarter, but 2 quarters, but 3 quarters. And so you're starting to see some actual steadiness here. And not only online, but also their brick and mortar growth was pretty good as well this quarter.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. But just to go back to this Jet.com, how much can it compete with Amazon using this Jet.com platform? Is it working and is it expandable?
I mean, I think that's exactly what they're hoping on. You saw an interesting switch this quarter where instead of focusing on global online sales, they're starting to focus on U.S. online sales. They're saying, you know what, this is the most important market for us. This is where 60% of our revenue comes from, and we're going to not only focus there on brick and mortar, but also on online. And Jet.com was a big part of that.
Lindsey, there's been rumors of Hudson's Bay circling Macy's. Is it going to happen? It obviously had been under pressure to turn itself into a REIT.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows. Macy's itself wouldn't comment on that on the call. You know, I think that it makes sense from a real estate perspective if you're Hudson's Bay, if you're Macy's. You know, I don't know if it makes sense. If you can close those stores on your own or monetize them, then maybe you don't need Hudson's Bay to come out and buy you. Macy's is making progress on monetizing its fleet, although a little more slowly than I think its activist investor Starboard would really like to see them do. They've said no to a REIT, but they are kind of hinting at maybe we're going to do something with our 34th Street flagship store in Herald Square. They've already monetized some of their big assets in San Francisco and a few other places. So I think we're going to see more to come on the real estate, whether it's a deal or not.
Well, even if they stay sort of on their own, how much more consolidation does there need to be in the likes of Macy's? I mean, department stores, of all things, are not doing so well, and Macy's, you know, is one of them.
Absolutely true, and I think that's the billion-dollar question. And a lot of, they're actually in a much better position than a lot of other department stores. You know, most everybody else has more stores than Macy's does. So I think we're going to see consolidation across the industry. What the question is what those spaces become in these malls where a Macy's closes, a Sears closes, a JCPenney maybe closes. What are they going to do with all that empty space?
Shelly, Walmart, you know, obviously it's got its act together now when it comes to online. And in-store, I mean, it's going to have to do a lot of cutting as well. What did they say on the call, the executives, about how many more stores will close and other things, like how much, for example, minimum wage increases are putting pressure on the bottom line?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the minimum wage increase is that you're going to start to see that lap in the next quarter. And so Walmart basically said that big wage increase that we put through the past couple of years, you're not going to see that again this quarter, or you know, in this coming year. And so that's going to be a big benefit to Walmart. And then in terms of stores, I mean, they're finally, after years of people saying you need to stop opening so many stores, they're finally pulling back on that, taking that money from those capital expenditures that they were putting into stores and putting it back into online. And that's where their business really needs to grow. Right now, they're focusing a lot on remodeling those stores and retrofitting them and adding things like online grocery pickup, which ends up going to the online, ends up adding to online sales growth, but is also a big physical component to it.